There are a ton of big-name open-world RPGs everyone's heard of, but what about the ones that kind of flew under the radar? Today, I'm going to show you some of the most underrated open-world RPGs that deserve way more love. These are games that give you awesome worlds, cool stories, and a bunch of freedom, and hardly anybody talks about them. If you're looking for something new and different, this list is for you. Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning. This game has no business being as slept on as it is. Like seriously, you boot it up and yeah, maybe it looks a little old school and sure, it came from kind of a messy history with that whole studio collapse and all that. But the second you start swinging your weapon around, it just feels good. Combat is smooth, like way smoother than you'd expect from a big open world RPG from back then. It's got that action RPG feel where you're dodging, blocking, juggling enemies, mixing magic and swords, kind of like if Skyrim actually cared about the combat system. But okay, it's not just about the fighting. The world is huge, like massive, and colorful too. None of that muddy brown nonsense you saw in a lot of games from that era. This world actually feels alive. Lots of towns, forests, swamps, weird fantasy zones, all packed with quests. And I mean a ton of quests. Maybe too many, honestly. You could get lost in just side content for hours before even remembering the main story exists. Speaking of story, it's got a cool hook. You're this dude or girl who literally came back from the dead, and now you're the only one who can mess with fate. Like in this world, everyone's future is already written, but not you. You broke the system, so now you're out here wrecking monsters and changing the timeline while everyone's like, yo, who is this guy? Is it perfect? Nah. The menus feel dated, inventory management can get annoying, and the world, while beautiful, can feel kind of generic fantasy sometimes, but man, the gameplay carries hard. And once you start leveling up and mixing different abilities like daggers and lightning spells or a big hammer with stealth, it gets real fun real fast. Also, the remaster, Re-Reckoning, cleaned things up a bit, made it run better on modern systems and added some quality of life stuff. Nothing groundbreaking, but enough to make it feel smoother. Bottom line, Kingdoms of Amalur is one of those games that just didn't get the love it deserved. It might not have the big cinematic moments like Witcher 3 or the hardcore systems of something like Divinity, but it's just plain fun. That's enough sometimes.
Not more spiders! Burn them! Burn them!
GreedFall. So GreedFall is one of those games that kind of flew under the radar for most people. It came out at a weird time, didn't have a huge budget, and didn't get the kind of marketing push that the big AAA RPGs get. But honestly, if you're someone who misses that old school BioWare vibe, like Dragon Age Origins or Mass Effect 2, this game's got something for you. You play as this noble guy named Desardet, and your job is to help settle political tensions on this newly discovered island called Tirfredi. The place is full of strange creatures, tribal cultures, old magic, and European-style colonial powers all trying to take over. There's a plague back home, so everyone's desperate to find a cure, and they think the island might be the key. It's kind of like if you threw The Witcher, Dragon Age, and a little bit of Assassin's Creed 3 into a blender. Now look, this game isn't super polished. You're not going to get Horizon or Witcher 3 levels of animation or graphics. Faces can be stiff, lip sync is kind of off, and some of the environments feel copy-pasted. But the thing is, you get used to that pretty quick because the story and world actually pull you in. The quests are where it shines. These aren't your usual fetch quests. A lot of them are about solving political problems, picking sides between factions, or trying to avoid bloodshed altogether. And there's no black and white morality here. Every choice has some kind of consequence, and most of them feel messy in a good way. You'll end up asking yourself, am I doing the right thing? Pretty often. Companions are a big deal too. You get 5 party members, each from a different faction, and they've got their own beliefs and personal quests. Some of them will straight up leave you or get mad if you make choices that go against their values. It adds some weight to your decisions, especially if you care about keeping the crew together. Combat's decent, it's not the game's biggest strength, but it works. You can go in with swords, guns, magic, or mix it all up. There's also a tactical pause thing like in older RPGs where you can queue up moves, but honestly I just played it real time most of the time. It's not super deep, but there's enough variety with skills and gear to keep it interesting. The open world isn't massive like a Ubisoft game, but it's more focused. Each zone has its own vibe and quests, and it doesn't waste your time with filler. No tower climbing, no hundreds of collectibles, just actual content. And most of it feels like it's there for a reason. GreedFall isn't perfect, but for a mid-budget RPG, it punches way above what you'd expect. If you go in knowing it's a bit rough but full of heart, you'll probably end up enjoying it. It's one of those games where you can tell the devs really cared even if they didn't have the biggest tools to work with. This one's a sleeper hit. Definitely worth checking out if you want something a little different, a little old school, and way more thoughtful than it looks at first glance. Two Worlds 2. Now, this one's a weird case. Not in a bad way, but in that rough gem buried under a pile of janky stuff kind of way. A lot of people never gave it a real shot, maybe because the first Two Worlds was kind of messy and had that old meme reputation. But if you skip the sequel because of that, you actually missed out on something surprisingly cool. So, first off, Two Worlds 2 is an open-world fantasy RPG. Kind of like if Oblivion, Gothic, and Arisen all got shoved into one game. It's got that same old-school European RPG vibe. Clunky menus, stiff animations, but also weird charm and super deep systems hiding underneath. You play as this nameless dude. Yeah, he doesn't even get a real name, trying to save his sister from this evil dude named Gandahar, who's using her for magic stuff. The story itself is nothing crazy, but it's enough to keep you going. It's not about flashy cutscenes or giant twists, it's more about exploring this big world and just messing around with all the stuff it throws at you. And the world is actually big, like really big. There's deserts, swamps, forests, snowy mountains, all open to explore, and packed with side quests, dungeons, weird characters, and sometimes just strange stuff happening for no reason. It feels like a world that exists even when you're not there. Yeah, some parts feel kind of empty, but when you stumble on something cool, it feels more earned. Now, the real meat of the game is in its systems. The crafting is nuts. Like, you can break weapons and armor down into parts and use those to build better gear. It's super flexible, almost overwhelming at first. Then there's the magic system. And I'm not joking, it might be one of the best spell systems in any RPG. You literally build spells by combining effect cards. Want a fireball that splits into 3 and stuns enemies? You can do that. Want a spell that summons a ghost, then explodes, then heals you? You can do that too. It's like a mini programming language for wizards. And it's honestly kind of awesome once you get the hang of it. Combat's a bit stiff, no lie. You swing swords, shoot arrows, or blast magic, and it works fine, but it's not the most polished part. What saves it is the build variety. You can spec into whatever style you want and actually make it work. Plus, there's a whole alchemy system too, where you mix your own potions from ingredients, and those can give you big boosts or even permanent stat upgrades. It also has mounts, boats, stealth, traps. It tries to do a little bit of everything, and while not all of it works perfectly, it still feels like a game that gives you freedom. You're not constantly being handheld. You can take on quests out of order, go into areas too early and get wrecked, or just wander off and find hidden loot or NPCs with full quest lines. And look, the dialogue and voice acting, yeah, it's rough. Like weirdly delivered lines and cheesy jokes that don't always land, but that kind of becomes part of the charm. It's like watching a B movie that knows it's not perfect but still tries hard. If you lean into it instead of expecting some Hollywood quality stuff, you'll probably laugh and enjoy the ride. Elex is one of those games where you kind of have to push through the weirdness early on, but once it clicks, man, it's actually pretty cool. It's made by Piranha Bytes, the same devs behind Gothic and Arisen, so if you played those, you already know what kind of game this is. It's rough around the edges, kind of clunky, but full of heart and big ideas. The setting is probably the most unique part. It's this post-apocalyptic sci-fi fantasy mix. Like, you got medieval swords and castles on one side, and laser guns and jetpacks on the other. All in the same world. That sounds like a mess, but somehow they pull it off. There's this crazy energy source called Elex, and people are fighting over it. Some want to use it for tech, others for magic, some even just consume it like drugs. It's a wild mix, and it actually makes the world feel alive in a strange way. You play as this dude named Jax. He used to be part of this cold, no-emotion faction called the Albs, but something goes wrong and he ends up losing his powers and getting betrayed. So now you're just kind of tossed out into this big, dangerous world with nothing. From the start, you're weak, everyone's stronger than you, and nobody likes you. It's harsh, but that's what makes exploring and leveling up feel so satisfying. You earn your place here. The world is huge, totally open, and doesn't care what level you are. You can go wherever you want, but if you walk into the wrong spot too early, you're toast. It's got that old school feel where exploring is risky and you have to pick your fights carefully. But that jetpack they give you early on, total game changer. You can fly over cliffs, dodge enemies, reach hidden areas. It makes just moving around the world way more fun. Combat? Okay, not gonna sugarcoat it, it's stiff at first. Takes a bit to get used to. You gotta manage stamina, time your dodges, and pick your targets carefully. But once you level up and get better gear, it becomes a lot more enjoyable, especially if you mix it up with guns, magic, or tech powers. You're not locked into one style either. Want to be a sword-swinging monk who also throws fireballs? That works. Want to be a stealth sniper with poison arrows? That works too. And then you got factions. 3 of them. The Berserkers, nature magic types, the Clerics, tech and religion, and the Outlaws, scrappy survivalist punks. They all have different styles, weapons, and philosophies, and choosing one actually changes how people treat you and what missions you get. It's a meaningful choice, not just a skin swap. The game also doesn't hold your hand much. Quests don't always tell you exactly where to go, and sometimes dialogue choices actually lock you out of stuff. NPCs lie, betray you, or just act shady. It feels like a real world where things don't always work out cleanly. And I kind of respect that. It's a game that trusts you to figure things out, even if it means failing sometimes. Now yeah, the graphics are a little dated, voice acting's hit or miss, and there's some bugs here and there. But that's kind of expected from this dev team. What matters is the ambition. Elex tries to do more than most games in its budget range, and while not all of it lands, a lot of it actually works if you're patient. So if you like RPGs that give you freedom, challenge, and a setting that doesn't feel like anything else, this is a hidden gem. You just gotta push past that janky start and let it grow on you. It's not for everyone, but for the folks who love deep, weird, open-ended RPGs, this one hits different. Now, Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, this one's just built different. Like, it came out back in 2012, but it still feels ahead of its time in so many ways. If you've never played it, this ain't your typical open-world RPG. It's got its own flavor, its own rules, and honestly, it doesn't care what you're used to. That's part of what makes it so cool. You play as this regular dude in a fishing village, and out of nowhere, a dragon shows up, wrecks everything, and straight up rips your heart out. Literally. But somehow, you don't die. You come back as what they call the Arisen. Basically someone chosen to kill the dragon and decide the fate of the world. So yeah, things get epic fast. The story's not super in your face, but it's got a lot going on under the surface if you pay attention. And the world, it's big and dangerous. Not empty big, like everywhere you go, there's something waiting to jump you. Wolves, goblins, ogres, undead. And at night, oh man, the game gets straight up terrifying in the dark. Like pitch black, can't see a thing, better light a lantern or you're screwed kind of scary. Not even joking. Combat though is, well honestly, that's the real star here. It feels almost like an action game. You got full control, light attacks, heavy attacks, skills, climbing on enemies. Yeah, like Shadow the Colossus style. You can literally grab onto a griffin mid-air or scale a cyclops and stab it in the eye. It's fast, weighty, and surprisingly deep. And the game lets you switch between classes called vocations, so you can go from being a sneaky dagger rogue to a full-on magic-slinging sorcerer, or even a tank with a giant hammer. Each one feels super different, and all of them are fun in their own way. Now let's talk about pawns. This is one of the weirdest and coolest systems in any RPG. You create a companion, your main pawn, and they travel with you the whole game, but you also hire 2 extra pawns made by other players online. Yeah, real people's pawns, with their own gear, personalities, and knowledge. They don't just follow you blindly either. If they've been to a place before or fought a certain enemy, they'll actually help you figure things out, like, hey, fire works on these guys, or I've seen this path before. It's almost like you're never really playing alone. The Dark Arisen version adds a whole new area called Bitter Black Isle, which is just nasty in the best way. Super tough enemies, creepy vibes, and loot that'll make your build go from decent to deadly. It's for the hardcore folks who want a real challenge, and honestly, it's worth it if you like the base game. Sure, the graphics are kind of old school now, the voice acting is a little cheesy, and the world doesn't always feel packed with stuff like newer games, but there's a vibe here you can't fake. The combat, the danger, the freedom, it all just works. It feels like an RPG made by people who really wanted to do something different, and they nailed it in their own way. And here's the thing, when you actually finish the game and get to the ending, bro, it pulls a twist that just messes with your head. It's one of those games where the deeper you go, the more you start thinking, wait, what even is this world? Arisen. Now, this one right here, definitely slept on. It's janky, sure, like classic Euro jank levels of clunky. But if you're the kind of person who loves digging into raw, gritty RPGs where you're not handheld every 5 seconds, Arisen kind of hits different. So here's the setup. You wash up on an island after a shipwreck. No gear, no clue what's going on, and boom, there's a volcano in the middle of the island spitting out monsters in ruins full of ancient stuff. Right away, the game just drops you in and says, good luck! No shiny quest markers, no minimap spam. You actually gotta explore and think. The island isn't massive, but it's dense, and the whole place feels handcrafted. Like, every path, every cave, every corner has something there on purpose. The way the game handles factions is also cool. You got 3 main groups you can join. The Order, basically magic warrior monks. The Bandits, more roguish outlaw types. And the Mages, if you want to sling fireballs. And whichever one you pick actually changes your storyline path and what abilities you unlock. It's not like a surface level choice either. It affects how people talk to you, what quests you get, and how you fight. And once you're locked in, you are locked in. So no jumping between playstyles halfway. You commit and live with it, which kind of makes your decisions feel way more real. Combat though, not gonna lie, it's clunky as hell at first. Like, you'll probably die to a pack of wolves 5 times before you even get a proper sword. But once it clicks, once you get the timing down and learn enemy patterns, it feels solid in a very old school way. Every swing matters, every dodge, every parry. It's not flashy, but it's tight if you give it time. And honestly, the world building here is underrated. The island actually feels alive. People follow their own schedules, NPCs don't just stand around waiting for you, and a lot of quests have multiple ways to solve them. Lying, sneaking, fighting, bribing, you know, actual role-playing. And the writing isn't trying to be too deep or poetic, but it feels grounded. Like you're just a dude trying to survive on a cursed island run by shady people and ancient forces. Also, major respect to the game for not throwing in level scaling. If there's a giant monster in a cave, it's not gonna magically level down to your stats. You either come back later stronger or get wrecked. That kind of design teaches you to explore smart, not just charge in sword swinging. The visuals now are obviously dated. Like, you can tell this game was made in that early Xbox 360, PS3 era where everything's kind of brown and rocky. But there's still a charm to it. The lighting, the way the island looks at sunrise or when a storm rolls in, it's got mood. If you're into more polished RPGs, Arisen might frustrate you. But if you're the kind of player who misses that old Gothic style grit where the game doesn't explain everything and every win feels earned, it's absolutely worth a shot. Just go in knowing the first few hours are rough. But after that, it's surprisingly dope. Outward is straight up one of the most unique RPGs out there. Not because it's flashy or some big budget thing, but because it commits to the survival meets fantasy vibe that most games barely scratch. It doesn't hold your hand at all. And honestly, that's kind of the whole point. So first off, you're not some chosen one. No world-ending prophecy, no ancient bloodline powers. You're just a dude. A broke traveler who starts the game already in debt. Like literally, your journey kicks off with you owing people money and scrambling to not lose your house. That already sets a different tone than most RPGs. It feels grounded, real. You're not saving the world, you're just trying to get by. And survival is everything here. You gotta eat, drink, sleep, watch the temperature, treat wounds, cure diseases, all while exploring wild areas full of bandits, monsters, and natural hazards. You don't just take damage in fights, you bleed, get sick, freeze to death, or pass out from exhaustion. Fast travel? Nah, you walk everywhere. And if you die, sometimes you don't even reload. The game has this system where depending on where and how you go down, you might wake up captured, dragged to a new location, or helped by a stranger. It's unpredictable but cool, gives every fight some real tension. Combat, it's kind of slow and weighty, like a mix of Dark Souls and old school RPGs. You can't button mash. Stamina management matters, positioning matters. The magic system's actually one of the coolest parts. It's not just press button, shoot fireball. You gotta go through rituals, unlock ley lines, and manage components. Like, becoming a mage is a journey, not just a skill tree. There's a risk reward to everything you do. And speaking of journeys, Outward shines the most when you're just out there, hiking through a snowstorm with a backpack full of loot, trying to make it to the next town before you freeze to death. The world feels harsh, but fair. You plan your routes, prep for the trip, make tough choices. Do you carry more healing stuff or more food? Bring loot or extra gear? It's that backpack RPG feel where inventory management actually matters, and you can play the whole game in split-screen co-op, which is super rare nowadays. That alone makes it feel like some lost classic. It's not for everyone. If you like slick UI, quest markers, or the game telling you what to do next, this might frustrate you, but if you're cool with getting lost, learning through failure, and just living in a tough fantasy world, Outward is low-key brilliant. Feels more like a real adventure than most big-budget games. Gothic 3 is a weird one, man. It's ambitious as hell, but also kind of a mess. Like on paper, it sounds amazing, a massive open-world RPG where you can go wherever, do whatever, and align yourself with different factions in a big war. But in reality, it's janky, confusing, and kind of broken depending on which version you play. So, here's the deal. The world is huge. Not in the usual Ubisoft map full of icons kind of way, but more like a real, handcrafted place. Forests feel like actual forests. Towns have layouts that make sense. There's a lot of personality packed into this world, and it feels alive. You've got humans, orcs, rebels, desert factions, all fighting over control. And you, as the nameless hero, again, can pretty much pick sides however you want. Support the orcs who control the cities, join the rebels hiding in the woods, help free slaves. It's totally up to you. But here's the thing, this game was super rushed at launch. Buggy, unstable, weird AI, broken quests, crashes, it was a mess. The vanilla version is barely playable. If you want to try it today, you have to install the community patch. It fixes hundreds of issues and makes the game actually decent. Like, it's not a small fix, it's basically essential. Combat? Honestly, it's clunky. It tries to be real-time action, but ends up feeling kinda spammy. Swinging swords and blocking has weird timing and the animations are stiff. You can kinda cheese most fights unless you play on harder difficulties. And there's a ton of fighting. Every area is packed with enemies. Wolves, bandits, wild animals, orc patrols. Sometimes it gets exhausting. Now, the quests are cool in concept. You walk into a new town and there's politics, power struggles, choices to make. But again, a lot of it is vague or poorly explained. The game expects you to explore and figure stuff out without handholding, which is nice in theory, but the execution isn't always great. The writing is also a mixed bag. Some good ideas, but pretty stiff dialogue overall. Still, even with all that, there's a charm to Gothic 3. It's rough, yeah, but there's something satisfying about walking into a town, talking to people, doing quests, and slowly shifting the power dynamic in a region. The game doesn't tell you what's right or wrong, you just kind of exist in this world and make your way through it however you like. That kind of freedom is rare, even now. But again, you have to be okay with jank. Even patched, it's not smooth. It's kind of like a DIY fantasy sandbox where you're constantly questioning if something is broken or if you just missed something. If you can put up with that, there's a lot to love. If not, you'll probably bounce off hard. The Days Long Gone is, honestly, kind of an oddball. It's this top-down stealth action RPG set in a post-apocalyptic world. Like, imagine if the world ended, got rebuilt with weird sci-fi tech and magic, and now you're a thief sneaking around in that mess. Yeah, it's that kind of game. Very niche, very different. You play as Terrio, this sarcastic thief who ends up getting possessed by a demon after a job goes wrong. So right from the start, it's got a weird vibe. You're dropped onto this island prison called Hay, and the whole game takes place there. The place is full of factions, weird tech, ancient ruins, creepy cults, all layered on top of each other. It's a dense world full of strange lore that mixes cyberpunk with medieval fantasy. Kind of like Dishonored meets Styx meets Shadowrun, if that makes any sense. The big hook is the gameplay style. It's isometric, but you can freely move around in real time, climb stuff parkour style, sneak around, hack devices, pickpocket people, stab guards, hide bodies, all that sneaky stuff. And it actually lets you tackle missions in a bunch of different ways. Want to go loud? Sure. Want to ghost through without being seen? You can try. There's a lot of freedom in how you approach each situation, which is cool. Story-wise, it's actually pretty interesting. Teriel isn't your usual RPG protagonist. He talks, he's got a personality, he argues with the demon in his head, and there's this constant mystery about what's really going on. The world building is dense, sometimes too much, but if you like digging into weird, obscure lore, there's a lot to chew on. The tone is bleak, but not depressing. More like gritty with a dark sense of humor. So yeah, 7, The Days Long Gone, isn't for everyone. It's unique, it's ambitious, and when it clicks, it feels cool. Sneaking through a high-security area, stealing classified info, blending into a crowd, you feel like a badass thief in a weird, broken world. But you gotta be okay with some jank, rough edges, and occasional "what the hell do I do now?" moments. If you like stealth-heavy RPGs, strange worlds, and don't mind top-down controls that aren't super polished, this might actually be worth a shot. It's definitely not your typical RPG, and that's kind of the whole point. This one's such a love letter to old-school action RPGs, but with a fresh twist that somehow makes it feel modern, too. Like, imagine if someone mixed A Link to the Past with Secret of the Mana and then threw in some MMO-style world-building and storytelling. That's the kind of energy this game gives off. You play as this girl named Leo, who wakes up in a virtual MMORPG world, but here's the thing. She can't talk. Like, literally mute. But not the boring silent protagonist kind. They actually make it part of the story. You get upgrades that let her say a few words at a time, and she reacts with expressions and sound cues, and you honestly end up really caring about her, even without full dialogue. They pull that off way better than I expected. Also, the combat. So it's finally good. It's fast, snappy, and super satisfying. You're dodging, dashing, shooting energy balls, comboing melee attacks, switching elements mid-fight. It's deep, but it doesn't overload you right away. And it's not button mashy either. Boss fights especially feel really well designed. They make you learn patterns, figure stuff out, actually think, but still feel cool while doing it. Not cheap hard, just smart hard. Now the world, it's not technically open world like Skyrim or something, but it's big. It's got this chunky, handcrafted layout that's packed with side quests, secrets, and dungeons. And the dungeons, man, they're like these puzzle-filled challenge rooms that make your brain work. This is the one part that might turn people off, because some of the puzzles can get pretty tough. But if you're into that Zelda-style stare at the screen and go, type of gameplay, you'll love it. The art style is straight up beautiful. It's pixel art, but it's so detailed and clean. The animations are buttery smooth, the effects are flashy, and the color palette just makes every area feel unique. Plus the music, banger after banger. And it's not just style, there's a legit story here too. It starts off light, but as you keep playing, it dives into heavier stuff. Memory loss, identity, people trapped in virtual worlds, emotional choices, all that juicy sci-fi stuff. And it's not rushed either. The devs really took their time building this layered story that keeps adding pieces as you go. It's like you're slowly peeling back the truth, one quest at a time. Honestly, CrossCode is one of those games where you can tell the devs put their whole heart into it. It's massive for an indie title. Polished, packed with content, and just fun as hell to play. You can feel the passion in every corner of it. Vampyr. Now, this one's a strange little gem. Rough around the edges? Yeah. Clunky at times? Definitely. But if you're into moody, story-heavy RPGs with choices that actually matter, this thing kinda hits different. You play as Dr. Jonathan Reed, a doctor turned vampire in 1918 London during the Spanish flu pandemic. So right away, you've got this cool hook. You're sworn to save lives, but now you literally have to drink blood to survive. That moral tug of war is the heart of the whole game. It's not just some backdrop either. The story actually makes you feel the weight of your choices. Every citizen you meet is unique. They've got names, relationships, backstories, and if you decide to feed on one of them for a big XP boost, that's it. They're gone for good. The game doesn't pull punches. It even shows how their death affects the whole district. People go missing, communities fall apart. You feel it. Now, the combat, yeah, it's serviceable. It's kind of like a mix between Bloodborne and a AA budget brawler. You've got melee, vampire powers, dodging, guns, but it's not super tight or smooth. You'll get used to it, but don't expect super polished fighting. It's there to keep things moving, not blow your mind. But the atmosphere, it's thick, like rainy cobblestone streets, dim gas lamps, that constant foggy dread. The music's eerie, the voice acting's solid, and it really leans into that Gothic London feel. It's not a huge open world, but it's dense and moody. You actually want to explore every alley just to see who lives there and what their deal is. What makes Vampyr underrated is how much it commits to its choices. You can technically finish the whole game without killing a single person, but that means you'll be underpowered the entire time. Every fight will be tougher, every area more dangerous. But hey, you'll feel like you stuck to your morals. Or you can snap and start feasting. Get strong fast, but destroy communities in the process. It's not black and white either. Some of the innocent people have shady pasts. Some bad folks are just trying to survive. It forces you to really think. It's not for everyone. If you want constant action or a huge flashy world, you'll probably bounce off. But if you like slow burn RPGs where your choices actually shake things up, this one's a rare treat. Definitely one of those games that punches way above its budget. Just gotta be okay with a little jank on the side. Outcast Second Tact is kinda like walking into a time capsule, but someone polished the glass a bit so you can actually see what's inside. It's a full remake of the original Outcast from 1999, a cult classic that tried some really ambitious stuff way back when, but got buried under the weight of its own clunkiness and the fact that barely anyone had a PC that could run it right. So what is this thing? It's a third-person sci-fi adventure RPG where you play as Cutter Slade. Yeah, the name's very 90s action hero, an ex-Navy SEAL who gets thrown into an alien world called Adelpha. You're not just sightseeing though. Earth's in danger, and your job is to fix a busted probe and save both worlds. Classic sci-fi setup, but the tone is weirdly laid back. Cutter cracks jokes, the aliens called Talon are chill and philosophical, and there's this whole peaceful meets dangerous vibe going on. Now here's the thing, even in this remake, it still feels like a game from another era. You don't get quest markers thrown in your face, no compass telling you where to go. The game just drops you in this handcrafted alien world and expects you to actually talk to people, remember names, explore areas, and piece together where to go next. It respects your brain, maybe a little too much sometimes. The world itself is beautiful in a very old school way. Not massive, but handcrafted with a lot of personality. Each region has its own vibe, snowy mountains, tropical jungles, ancient ruins, and the Talon culture feels fleshed out. They've got politics, religion, different castes, and the game makes you care about it because you actually interact with them on a personal level. Outcast Second Contact might surprise you. It's not a flashy blockbuster. It's more like a weird, thoughtful sci-fi book turned into a game. Kinda awkward, kinda endearing, very unique. Yakuza Like a Dragon Ishin. Yakuza Like a Dragon Ishin is one of those games that sounds super confusing at first, like wait, is this a samurai game? Is it a Yakuza game? Is it even connected to the other Like a Dragon games? Here's the deal, it's a full remake of a 2014 Japan-only spin-off, finally brought to the West with upgraded visuals and full English support. And yeah, it's still technically part of the Yakuza series, but don't stress, this one's totally standalone, no homework required. You play as Ryoma Sakamoto, basically a historical version of Kazuma Kiryu, voiced and modeled just like him. In fact, the whole cast is made up of familiar faces from past Yakuza games, just recast into 1800s Japan. So it's kind of like a samurai drama starring all your favorite gangsters, which is honestly a pretty cool twist. Story-wise, it leans hard into political drama and revenge. Ryoma's on a mission to find his mentor's killer while dealing with corruption, secret identities, and shady factions during Japan's late Edo period, right before the country opened up to the West. It's full of emotional beats, intense standoffs, and the kind of dramatic yelling that only Yakuza games can pull off without being cringe. But then there's the other half, the silly, chaotic, borderline insane stuff that Yakuza fans expect. You can sing karaoke, yes, old-timey karaoke, pet dogs, run a farm, dance, gamble, help random townsfolk with ridiculous problems, and just go completely off script for hours. One minute you're slicing through corrupt samurai, the next you're fist fighting in your underwear because some drunk guy insulted your mochi. It's a vibe. Combat's the big gameplay change. You get 4 fighting styles: swordsman, brawler, gunman, and the totally absurd wild dancer, which is basically spinning around with a sword and gun like you're in an anime ballet. It's fast, flashy, and over the top like always, but a little clunkier compared to Yakuza 0 or Like a Dragon Gaiden. Still fun though, and once you get the hang of switching styles mid-fight, it opens up. The game world isn't massive, it's set mostly in Kyo, old Kyoto, with a few districts to explore, but there's tons to do. Side quests, minigames, secret fights, crafting, upgrades. You can spend hours just messing around without touching the main story. And yeah, it's all fully voiced with English subs, though there's no English dub, so be ready to read. So yeah, Ishin is kind of a weird gem. It's got samurai drama, heartfelt revenge, goofballs side content, and a cast of familiar faces playing totally new roles. If you're into Yakuza games, you'll probably love it. If you're new, this is actually a decent entry point, as long as you're cool with subtitles and a bit of cultural deep diving. Just don't expect super serious historical accuracy. This is still a Yakuza game at heart, just wearing sandals and swinging a katana. Dragon Quest XI, Echoes of an Elusive Age, might not seem underrated at first glance. I mean, it's part of a huge legendary franchise. But here's the thing. In the West, it still doesn't get the love it should. Like, if this exact game had Final Fantasy slapped on the box, people would have gone nuts. But because it's Dragon Quest, a lot of folks just skipped it thinking it's too old school or too Japanese or something. But they're missing out big time. This game is basically the perfect modern take on a classic JRPG. You've got turn-based combat, a colorful world, and a big, heartfelt story. But it all feels super polished, smooth, and easy to get into. It doesn't try to be edgy or overly complicated. It just nails what it's trying to be. A beautiful, charming, story-driven RPG with a cast of characters you actually care about. The story? It starts pretty standard, sure, chosen hero, evil threat, save the world, but it builds. The twists in the second half totally flip what you expect, and there are some real emotional gut punches later on. And the postgame? Not a cheap afterthought. It's literally like a third act of the story, and it matters. It's rare to see a JRPG where finishing the main story isn't the end, and it pulls that off without feeling bloated. Visually, it's gorgeous too. Bright, colorful, painterly. It's like a classic fairy tale world brought to life in HD. Here's the thing though. A lot of modern gamers look at this game and go, turn-based? Cartoony? Nah. And that's the crime. Because Dragon Quest XI is hands down one of the most polished, welcoming, and satisfying JRPGs in recent memory. It doesn't need weird gimmicks. It just does the basics really damn well. So yeah, underrated? It really is, especially outside Japan. This thing should be mentioned in the same breath as Persona 5 and Final Fantasy X when folks talk about great JRPGs. But too many people wrote it off. If you're even thinking about playing it, do it. It's pure comfort food, and it sticks with you. Haven is one of those games that's super chill on the outside, but low-key deep when you really get into it. It's not your usual open-world RPG where you're grinding levels or chasing loot. It's more like a cozy little story about two people who ran away from a messed-up world just to be together. And honestly, that's kind of refreshing. You play as UNK, a couple living on this broken planet called Source. They're just out there exploring, surviving, cooking meals together, and gliding across colorful landscapes with these floaty gravity boots that feel amazing. The world design is full of these calm, open zones with soft music and glowing trails. It's super peaceful, almost like a playable daydream. But there's danger too, with some turn-based combat against these corrupted creatures. It's not hard or super complex, but it keeps things interesting. What really makes Haven special though, the couple. UNK aren't just some slapped-together characters. They talk, they flirt, they fight, they joke around like real people. It's rare to see a game where the romance isn't just a side plot. Here, it's the whole focus. And because the writing is so natural and honest, you actually care about them. You feel like you're just hanging out with this couple in their private little world. The game also throws in choices that affect how they bond, and you can even cook different meals that give buffs in combat. It's got a little bit of everything, but nothing too overwhelming. It's more about vibes and connection than it is about grinding stats. If you're into slow burn, character-driven games with just enough RPG flavor to keep you hooked, this one's a hidden gem. People didn't talk about Haven much when it dropped, maybe because it looks like a dating sim or some artsy walking sim at first glance, but it's actually a really cool blend of sci-fi, survival, and soft romance. Not for everyone, sure, but if you want something different, something chill but still meaningful, Haven is worth the trip.